fantastic guest who I hold up in high regard, Mr. Shane the Ruiner. Welcome, Shane. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you. I'm going to share a short bio of Shane, and then we're going to get right into our discussion, our topic tonight. Shane is a former Illuminati member and is known online as the Ruiner. From his blog, he is a speaker, author, singer, and songwriter with knowledge from experience within the mystery schools and secret programs. Using alchemy, he turned his experiences into teaching others how to harness and control their own personal power, as well as how to tap into the energies of creation. And at the end of the show, anybody that is familiar with Shane or is newly coming across the information he's been sharing for years, all of his contact information will be in the description box. Welcome, Shane, again. Thank you so much for coming on. So tonight we have a topic of timelines and the trajectory of humanity and where we're going as a human family. And of course, you can elaborate more about who you are as much as you'd like if you feel that, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. You said everything that needs to be said, I guess. I don't really, people have this idea of like there being like multiple timelines. I don't really look at it that way. I think that we kind of stay on something that's quite linear in that sense. There are other potentials. And I think that the universe kind of plays out these other timelines as experiments or as potentials. But I think that we experience something that's quite linear. In terms of what we're going through, I think that we are going through an evolution. Basically a change in our planet's frequency, which causes a change in our DNA, which is what sparks evolution over time. People think of, Darwinism and things like that. And there's been other theories like Stone Age theory and whatnot. And obviously the idea of alien visitation and augmentation of the DNA of life forms on the planet in order to create us. But we go through these cycles, the planet goes through these cycles where everything kind of evolves because the frequency changes. And we're right in the middle of that right now. The big problem is that we have a group of people who've been kind of in charge of us for a really long time, who are trying to play gods, so to speak, and steer that evolution in a way that they can still control, which is what we call transhumanism. There's two types of technology, basically, or organic technology, what we would call magic on one hand, and then you've got artificial technology, things like AI, computers, microchips, all that jazz on the other hand. Through our natural evolution, we should be kind of moving more into the magic side, but because they don't want us to be able to do that, because that makes us really hard to control, really hard to govern, they're making a very hard push to keep us on the technology side. That way they have the on and off switch, they control the power sources, they control how it rolls out, how much we have access to, who gets access to what, all of that stuff. Whereas if we were left to our own devices, we would be falling in line with more of our natural abilities, things like telepathy or psychic abilities, and things like that, being able to tap into the natural networks of the planet and the natural rhythms and harmonies of the planet in order for things like healing and communication and pretty much all the same stuff that we use material-based technology for. Unfortunately, the way any planet works is you've got this collective consciousness that kind of governs everything, and that means kind of like the majority rules in a way. And because the collective consciousness has been so perverted, I like to say that the public has been MK Ultra'd to a point where they're either A, looking for a savior, or B, running in fear all the time, C, playing the victim all the time. They're not embracing their own power and standing up to this steer of evolution. They're kind of just taking it because it feels safe, it feels secure, it's easier for them. It's kind of like in the Jedi lore, how the path to the dark side is the quicker and easier one, right? And the Jedi path takes a little bit of work, right? We're kind of in that same type of situation. A lot of humans don't like to put in the work. They're a little irresponsible. And so when you have these people offering them this dangling carrot, unfortunately, they tend to gravitate to it. So in terms of, you know, your question on timelines, that's kind of the timeline that we're on, is they've taken us away from where we kind of would go if we were left to our own devices, and they've put us onto this path that ends in transhumanism. I think in the process of that, we'll have to go through a pretty dark time, like any kind of evolution. You know, there's casualties, let's call it. There's things that are not good. There's a time of unrest. Things have to change dramatically, and sometimes with change comes a lot of chaos, a lot of destruction, things like that. I do foresee us having to go through that, but I also believe that this version of human that you and I are has the ability to balance this on the other end. Like once they've rolled out their plan and we've kind of suffered the worst that they have to throw at us, I think that humans will, at that point in time, develop some type of equilibrium with technology that will allow our version of human to kind of mark its own path with all of that technology. And if we don't, I think that we end up in a basically a matrix type simulation, because unfortunately the world is about to step into a virtual space. You've probably all heard of the metaverse by now. This is up and running. People are already creating metaverses and already selling real estate in them, and already selling avatars, and you know, the NFTs and the cryptocurrencies and all of those other technologies are all falling into line with it. So it's already happening. So that Ready Player One world is not very far away. And to reference Ready Player One, they called it the Oasis, but that might as well be Metaverse, right? The Oasis Metaverse, the same idea. In the movie is supposed to take place in like 2045, but they say within the movie that the first build of the Oasis or the Metaverse came online in 2024, which is right in line with our Metaverse, so to speak, coming online in 2024. So I don't think it's something that we can really avoid. I think it's something that we're going to have to learn how to navigate. And in order to do that, I think we have to take a really good look at all of the different things we've been learning over the last 10, 20 years through this community and through this style of learning, or through this stream of learning, and take a second look at it and kind of readjust our views on a lot of things. Separate the things that are useful from things that are not, and make sure that we put our energy in the right place moving forward.
I appreciate everything you just said. Everything.
This is a bit of a long-winded rant, but
yeah, no, that's okay, because you know, my thinking or my thought process is along the lines of everything that you shared. Some of it I didn't maybe give that much thought to, but definitely considered, and now you've just made it more real for me, and I appreciate that. What are your thoughts about this, Shane? Do you think that we are picking up, let's just say, from, because some have suggested, and I just kind of put information out there, and I'm not saying, you know, that any of what I'm saying is true, right, wrong, good, bad, up, down, right? Just information. People can do what they want, and I'm surely not somebody that's in the business of ever intentionally misguiding anyone. I just don't operate like that. That's not who I am or what I be, and it will never be that way. Definitely not knowingly. But there has been talk of being taken off Draco timelines, put back onto the organic ascension timeline of Mother Earth or this planet. I had an experience where I right around the time there were a few people that I have been in contact with spoke about this. I had a dream that I walked to my front door and opened the front door, and it was drizzling snow outside, just lightly, you know, light flakes of snow. and there was a man that was probably about 16 feet tall or taller. That's my guess, with a big tall hat and a cane, and the whole old 1700, 1800. I don't know what time it was in that, but I found it very interesting because he acknowledged me, and then he went back to talking to my neighbor next door. But there's a brick wall outside, well, outside storage. So I have to walk around to be able to see my neighbor. My point, he was standing where he acknowledged me when I opened the door. We acknowledged each other. I shut it and came back and laid back down on my couch and went back to sleep. So my point in bringing that up is I know a lot happens during our dream time, or what we would say is our dream time. And I am somebody that does believe, while this is very real and I have skin and hands and these walls that I live in, I do believe this is the dream, literally. I believe there are other aspects of ourselves in other dimensions doing other things, one of which is in the underworld. We have an aspect of ourselves in the underworld, or I'll speak for myself in that. I know I do. I know who I am, what I am. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Because I think there's many different people with there's so much different, like, information war out there, which I was talking with somebody about that. And it's like, when do we come together as, and get more people along the lines of natural, organic ascension and using magic as opposed to AI and so forth and so on. So please.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to our community, there's so much noise that it's really hard to bring someone's attention to it now, if that makes sense, because they come in and they're just kind of instantly deafened by it all, and they can't take it too seriously. Unfortunately, a lot of this is by design. The more generalized way that this is by design is by, say, what they're doing in the public, by trying to criminalize conspiracy theories, all of the censorship, all of that type of stuff. Unfortunately, because we've had so many kind of bad actors come and go through our community, it's really hard to, even if people are waking up because of what's going on with the spread of the joy and everything that's going on, this affliction that's going on in our world right now, those waking up, we can't really introduce them to all of this so easily because once again, it's just so much noise. So that's a bit of a problem. But to go kind of back to the question, I guess, is, we've lived through a time where the main controllers of this planet, which you've mentioned, the Draco, have let go of that control and moved on to do something else. And now when I say Draco, I mean like the Draco Empire, their king and the empire that follows him. They've left, they've relinquished this control here to go pursue their own thing. That's not to say there's no Draco still around, because obviously there would be. Not all of them are part of the empire. It's just a species, just like you and I aren't part of the military, but we're still humans, the same type of idea. But anyways, they gave that power to basically all the humans that were in their structure. So what we, generally call the Illuminati people. And their source of power, if you will, is an AI system that they've kind of inherited through all of this process that they believe works for them and is going to aid them in the creation of this transhuman world. It's going to be kind of what bridges it all together. So when it comes to like leaving, I think the concept of leaving a Draco timeline into something different is that's the kind of fact of the matter of what's going on. And when it comes to everything else that you were kind of addressing, we are multidimensional beings. This idea that comes through the New Age community of ascending to 5D or whatnot, like we're already 5D, 7D, 8D, 12D, whatever number you want to put on that beings.
Right on.
This expression of it that we share, just call it like the physical, right? This version that we share, we have to view through a computer, which we call a brain. And so when we're getting things from dreams, we're taking information out of realms that this computer can't make sense of a lot of the time, or it's just way too much data all at once for this computer to make sense of. So what this computer does is it breaks it down into imagery and metaphors, which come to us through dreams. So we are taking information, it's just not linear and literal. It's processed through the expectations of the human computer that we use, the brain that we use to perceive things. So that has to be taken into consideration when we're kind of dissecting the messages we're getting through our dreams. Not that doesn't downplay them in any way, it's just a different way of looking at them. And unfortunately, another part of the New Age community, the spiritual community, the alternative community, in all of its different things is, you know, there is this kind of savior victim programming, and a lot of people who kind of wants to be special, right? And so they're kind of adding that to whatever the message they're getting is along the way. And so you end up with all of these little groups, like you were mentioning, kind of fighting with each other, and different people putting out information, and people saying that there's this information is the correct information, that information is the false information. And something I've been saying since I became a whistleblower, started speaking in this community, was proof is always in the results. And so, if you've had an experience, you can tell whether or not it was real by the result of it, right? And so when it comes to people making claims and predictions, which a lot of whistleblowers and people speaking in this community tend to do, proof is in the results. So if there is never any proof, if there's no result matching the prediction ever, then the proof is still in the result, in that clearly their prediction was wrong, right? Because otherwise something would happen. And I think when you mentioned the secret space program, I think we just went through like a good 10 years of solid wrong when it comes to a lot of that information.
I so agree with that statement.
And we can see the result in, if it was right, those people that run this secret space program would be getting the fuck out of here, where clearly they are not. They are doubling down right here, right now, in real time. Proof is in the results. What we can see is they're digging their heels into planet Earth. They're not going to space, right? They're not disappearing in mass numbers. They're not any proof. There's no proof to the result of that the secret space program experiencers have been selling for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
So we now have to look at this again and say, okay, that was a great story. It was a lot of fun to consider. I'm sure there's some layers of truth to it, but we have to move forward with what we know, which is there's no truth to the result that they put forward, and we have the proof in the absence of a result. While you ask me the next question, I have to mute myself and stop my camera so that I can make sure I don't burn something out there. But
no, hey, go ahead, please.
But I can definitely hear you.
Yeah. No, I'll wait till you come back, Shane. Please do what you have to do. You're fine.
Please don't wait, because I can hear you. So
okay. Well, I mean, I so appreciate what you just spoke to, because I just feel like, I mean, I had my initial awakening in 2011, although I do definitely believe I came in awake. I was used, in the, I don't know if you want to call it the secret space program, super soldier program, my lab program, whatever. So I experienced a lot of different things throughout my life. And when I had my awakening and broke programming and start having, memory and so forth, it just seems like, for the first few years, I will be the first one to admit that, yeah, I was trying to figure out what the hell I had just experienced and all the information that I was pulling in and trying to understand it, and having had a Kundalini activation, which blew my crown chakra wide open, and just so many other things, but being targeted and so forth. I've shared all this stuff with you, and I'm past all that. I'm only speaking to it so people get some kind of understanding of some of the things that people like yourself, like myself, and others have experienced that have been used in these secret programs, if you want to call them that. there's, it just seems like it's a big circus and a lot of people making a lot of money off of a bunch of nonsense. And it's very confusing, especially for somebody that's brand new, waking up or starting to have some memories of their own and trying to make sense of what they're experiencing. I think, I mean,
Well, that's the problem, right? I don't mean to
yeah,
cut you off,
yeah,
but that's really the problem. And think of the way that I became a whistleblower. I was trying to help people that I knew personally, not people online. Like there was like 13 people that I know, like I could go have coffee with. They live in proximity to me. I've grown up with them. I've known them for a long time. That I started writing that for. And so, you know, to
Shane, you've helped so many people. I don't mean to cut you off, and surely I want to hear what you have to say. I mean, this is probably the most intelligent, down to earth, heart centered conversation I've had with anybody in a long time. Just in this short period that we've been on the show right now. And I
well, the problem
appreciate
is like when they look
it.
at this
Yeah.
community, like it upsets them because like in a way, like I'm going to try to avoid mentioning names, but when people start doing these TV shows where they act the part of a person who's been through these programs and they basically turn it into a literal comic book, you are spitting in the face of people who have been abused, locked in cages, damn right, down near murdered, sometimes literally murdered and brought back, um, subjected to tortures you can't even imagine, all to, you know, it's not even the money, it's the lives that bothers me. It's the people that get hurt because they get roped in. Because what'll happen is people who've actually been through these programs, they'll hear that person talk and they want someone to relate to, right? Like they need that. So when they hear that, of course they gravitate towards it because they're like, oh my God, someone's talking about something that vaguely resembles what I've been through. And so they want to cling on to it because we all want that human connection because that's what being a human is about. But the problem is when that person's just telling a story and that other person who's clung on to them now only has scattered memory about their experiences, they're going to start filling in their memory with the false experiences of the actor. And that's
Right.
a problem. And then they're also going to end up, seeing this other person held up as special and like viewed as whatever and like literally turned into like a quasi rock star, and they're going to want that too because they've had that experience, whereas like the real them that actually went through that experience wouldn't in a million years want that type of attention for what they've been through, but they've now reprogrammed their own head with all of this bullshit, right? And people get lost in this community. The other half hear all of that bullshit and they know that it's bullshit and it hurts them because they know that it's bullshit. And all they want is someone to come along and make sense of all this for them. And most people don't want to come along and make sense of this for them. Everyone wants to create their own narrative to be able to sell through this for it. So that's why I speak up to defend people who've been through these programs the way I have against people who I know clearly have not. And I can tell because proof is in the results. And, character is easy to see in a lot of these people. And certain characters and certain experiences can't exist in the same universe, so.
Can I just respond to what you're saying right now? Because of course my mind's going, and so it's interesting that you say that people play these characters out, and I'm not here to I surely I'm not here to debate or convince anybody of anything. I really could give a shit what anybody thinks of me. I think most people know that I'm a pretty genuine, down to earth, straightforward, very kind, loving, compassionate person, and I say that with true earnest. But I am a very direct person, and I see through a lot of bullshit. And there were a few people, and I'm not going to start mentioning names either because it's just not. I'm not going to waste my time. But I know when I reach out to this person, I do know he knows what he was talking about because there were things he said to me that I hadn't shared with anybody. So I knew that he was able to at least read DNA, read certain things, and had access to me in a way that maybe, I might not have cared to, I was looking for help, but I feel like he was pulling information out of me to see what I was remembering. Anyways, you interviewed somebody not long ago who claimed to be the Eve, right? And yeah, I'm not going to get into a big thing about that. Well, I did, honestly, Shane, it's just it's ridiculous. The movie Jupiter Ascending and some of the things that happened in that, well, I'm just saying, I mean, it, I will tell you, and I'm not here to, claim my fame or whatever. I don't give a shit about none of that. I know exactly who I am. I know the soul I behold, and I know who I'm connected to. And, I know part of my purpose in that whole situation, and the rest hasn't been revealed yet. And part of that is my own creative choice to which way I choose to go with this. But I'm surely not looking to be special in any way. And it frustrates me when I hear whether I had an attachment to that story or not, to know that people are looking to financially gain over other people's stories, quite literally. It's ridiculous. And I've had to go back and forth with deciding how much I'm willing to share and what I'm not. And part of me is just like, what's the point? Like what I have to ask myself, Ida, what is it that you're looking to gain? If you were to come forward and say anything, what is it that, what are you trying to do? What is your point? What is your purpose? Because I care about all of us, Shane, and I don't think I'm special. And I think especially those that have been used in these programs that, like you said, have suffered and so forth, those are the people that I care about and that I want to help to the best of my ability. I'm fortunate that I still have a heart, that I didn't lose my mind, that I never touched a child. But I know I was, I felt like I was losing my mind for a while, that's for sure. Nobody could really help me other than when I would listen to you and a few other people, a handful of people, not a whole bunch, but a handful of people that I was able to get enough information to make sense of my own experiences, enough to be able to pull it back in and not, lose my mind. Um, I don't even know where I was going with all that, because now I've just had my little rant, but I think you're amazing. You've helped so many of us. People like Max Spears, and and others, but you and Max are probably the two that have helped, that I've gained a great deal of help from, and I appreciate you, and I just want you to know that. And I think I tell you that all the time. I hope you know that. Go ahead, I'm listening.
I do, thank you. And
Yeah.
the most powerful woman that I've ever known used to tell me all the time she was happy being a street sweeper.
Yeah.
I can't, even from my own position, there was a pretty big story told about me kind of before a lot of people knew who I was, and I could have used that. I could have parlayed that into what a lot of other people do, but instead nobody knows that story. I made sure that it was mentioned once, and that's it. And I've never told it. I've never mentioned it. Matter of fact, the only people who have ever mentioned it are enemies of mine, or so, like, people who perceive me as their enemy, I guess. So to touch on the Kim thing, just because you did bring it up, I didn't handle that well, but that was never an interview. I basically laid out a few things that she clearly lied about, and I gave her the opportunity to speak to them. And instead of speaking to them, she first of all doubled down on a lie, and then she started going on about banking information, which made no sense. I lost my patience with her. I was super frustrated with all of our direct messages leading up to it that day, because the amount of bullshit coming out of her and the amount of times I had to send her links to prove that she was lying, just in the course of that day, to have her then double down on that lie right off the bat like that. To be honest, I lost my patience. So I was a bit of an asshole, but I wasn't wrong. And, you know, proof is still in the result. It's been what, we're now on 5 years, 5 years of promises of this is going to happen, that's going to happen. I know this, and I am this, and therefore this is going to happen. And nothing has fucking come from any of it, right?
Well,
None
I
of it.
absolutely agree. And I'm 100%, I'm not a person, like, I don't play sides and all that. My family knows this. They don't particularly, you know, I'm definitely not your typical anybody. I don't, you know, I'm loyal to myself and I give respect to everybody, right?
I'd love it to
And
be real. You know, I would
yeah,
love for
well,
it
my
to.
point is like, you know, uh, I watched that whole interview, and the only reason, let me just say this, you don't get to go through and experience what I've gone through and experiencing and then get to claim to be somebody that you're fucking not, okay? And I've made posts on she doesn't respond to me. Period. She doesn't respond to me, and there are others that know, and I'm not saying this to be arrogant, pompous, or whatever, but I'm just like fed up. I really am, because I feel like I've stuck in the background for a long time, Shane. Kept my mouth shut, not poked at anybody, just held my, you know, because I don't need to be out there front and center. I don't give a shit. But when when it has something to personally do with me, and you're claiming certain things and probably have no idea who's watching you and who's listening, like your ego and your, not you, meaning people, their egos are so grand and pompous that they're that fucked up that they would, excuse my language, come forward and be so arrogant to claim to be, you know, and then have no regard, like you said, for those of us that have experienced certain things and actually went through the initiations and actually experienced what we've experienced, and we're alive and we're here and we still have hearts and we're still loving, kind, and compassionate and wanting to help from true, earnest, genuine, you know what I mean? Not because I want to gain a buck. I could give a shit. You know, I was writing a book, and when I was writing that book, Little Sisters Lost Soul, everything I was writing was literally manifesting. I mean, as I'm writing, it's happening. And they came after me. And when I say they, you know, whoever they are, I have an idea of a little bit of it. But the point is, you know, you don't realize your power. I'll just say this and I'll be quiet. People don't realize the power. And that's why I tell people all the time, you're so much more powerful than you realize. And you'll know that power when it's your time to be tested or to have to, you know, protect yourself or stand up for yourself, be it here in this 3D or multidimensionally, whatever it is, you will know. And that's when you'll say you could decide how you're going to use it, whether it's, you know, to be in integrity and do the right thing, or allow your ego and your, you know, whatever to be special. Thanks
Well,
for
I think
listening, Shane.
no problem.
Yeah.
And yeah, like with everything, again, proof in the results. A lot of people say that they believe things, but they don't act like they believe them. And like that's you know, I'm not just talking about people like her or people in this community. I'm talking about people in the world at large. It's kind of a problem with our current collection of humans, is that they like to say that they believe a lot of things, but they don't live like they believe those things, right? And
Yeah.
much like, you know, if you've been through certain things or you are certain things, then you're going to kind of behave like you are those things. And that's not to say that anyone is ever perfect, because they're not, but there's a certain amount of consistency. And without that consistency, there's no way to judge, right? Like you can't look for patterns if you're dealing with just an individual speck of sand, right? You need like a beach in order to see patterns in them, right? And when it comes to, it's an unfortunate thing. You brought up Max, and Max is an example that I like to use. I love Max. Let me preface it by that, and I don't mean to say anything that's disparaging him. If I'm putting anyone down through what I'm saying, it's probably Miles Johnson. But that's a situation where you've got this person who's been traumatized and gone through all of these things and is doing their absolute best to teach others what they've learned through all of that pain that they went through. And then someone else comes along and tries to turn them into a fucking TV show and basically starts feeding them full of information, convincing them of things, and kind of leading them into a path that isn't in alignment with their soul. And then you end up with problems that manifest in the physical world, like, say, addictions to Xanax and alcohol. And then you have things that become tragic, like, say, drinking too much alcohol and taking too much Xanax. And then the world is lesser for you. And then the counterpart to that is same experiment. I mean, I follow her on Instagram because it's a lot of fun, but and I feel horrible for her, but you can see it in Sarah. It's the same thing, only she doesn't, her addictions are keeping her alive as opposed to killing her. But it, that's the danger that comes along with people like that trivializing our experiences and trying to capitalize on them and turn them into a business. And yeah, that's why I stopped doing, like, I'll let someone like you interview me or whatever, but, like, I started turning down the bigger programs, if you will, for a reason, because I don't want to support that business. And so I, created my own little corner and decided to just speak out through that way. If anyone, contacts me and it's like, hey, come on my show and talk to me about something, I'm like, sure, like, no problem. It doesn't matter who it is. But, I'm not engaging with that side of it anymore. I've created my own little thing. I'll do it over here, because I think that I hate to say it, but I think that the community has done more harm than good in
I
totality.
agree 100%. And like you, I prefer to be my little, I'm not looking, I would like people to, listen in, because I know that I'm coming, genuinely from my heart, and having people like yourself. I mean, I try to, I don't do this for fun. I do it trying, I mean, it is kind of fun. I like to connect with people like you, people I care about, people that I'm interested in, and, I want good things for you as much as I want good things for myself. I care about people. But I'm not interested. I'm not out here collecting best friends. I'm not looking to be in a clique. I'm not interested in competing with, I don't need to look better than anybody, none of the nonsense. And I've never been somebody that behaves that way anyways. And even when I was out there, doing my thing, like um I just always knew in my heart of hearts there was something more going on that I didn't fully understand. And then when I had my awakening and I got clear about, and then having military men jumping out, taking pictures of me in my house getting broke into, and them stealing my computer, and all the shit that I went through, uh, and being used as a sex slave, and on and on and on. And I'm no victim. So let me just be clear about that. I turned to sex because it was a way for me to be outside of myself, to feel for a moment, and I've been celibate for years by choice. And I'm very proud to say that. My whole life has turned around. But, sex, drugs, and rock and roll was the thing, right, Shane? I mean, back in the day, I'll say. It's been many years, but um, I was living quite a life, and doing things I wasn't, I always kind of knew, like, I got out of the house in just enough time before some crazy shit would go down, right? So I knew that, yeah. And I always questioned it, but I didn't really understand it um, until some things became very apparent to me. But I'm super grateful to be alive, and I'm glad to be here, and I do have a bigger divine purpose, and it's not to be on the world stage. If it was to present itself, and it was, to be able to really help people in a big way, of course, if that's what I'm in alignment with, great. But I'm not looking to be special. That's for sure. There's so many women out here, Shane, that are so just lost in their, you know how many women just living in Florida in 3 years that I've met, and I'm not knocking, augmentation to the body in any way, but fake boobs, fake asses, injections in the lips, like just hating themselves. I mean, I can't take it any other way. I hate to say that. They don't say that. They just, oh no, I want to have, enhance this, that. I want to feel prettier. No, there's something innate inside you that dislikes who you are as a woman. And it's sad.
Yeah, I mean,
But the fake
all of
fuckery,
that has been
yeah,
super
yeah.
perverted on us, right? Like anything having to do with sexuality has been totally turned on its head over the last few years, and not to use too much of
Turned
a
on
pun,
its
but
head. I mean,
it's
quite
been totally
literally.
fucked. That's
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's got fucked. So
Yeah.
nobody really knows how to behave anymore. And now that we have the joy going around, and all this division between lollipops and sugar-free people, and all, left and right politically, and just everything that's going on. It's prophecy spoke for forever about like a great separation, about like a new earth, and that type of idea, and we're living through it now. We are living through that separation. It's just not the way we thought it would be. It's literally like the earth going like this, and we're kind of sitting here right now vibrating, and eventually it's going to snap back together, and the world's going to be new, and it's going to be different. And the breakaway civilization will be those people who don't necessarily want to follow it in its new direction, but they're going to have to be able to coexist here somehow. So it's interesting times. We all get to make our own choice in terms of how we want to navigate it. The way out is through, so it's not like we can just check out and not participate, because we're going to have to in some way. And we just have to kind of listen to ourselves and trust ourselves. Remember how powerful we actually are, so that we can trust ourselves to do what is in alignment with our soul, whatever that looks like. For you it may be finding a community somewhere and going off grid, and for me it might be joining the metaverse and trying to influence it from within. Everyone's going to get to make their own choices, but I think what we should be able to all agree on to maybe get rid of some of the noise in our community is that all of this woo-woo ascension, rapture, disclosure, savior this, savior that, this person's going to release all these funds, this person's going to talk to Donald Trump behind the scenes to get all these people arrested, this person's going to do that. Guys, none of it has happened. It's been 12 fucking years. Can we move on? All right, because guess what? Like my country is getting like this far away from throwing people into concentration camps. There's like 12 different countries in the world who are that far away from throwing people into concentration camps. Can we stop arguing about which space mission we did last night together? Like let's
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I think we have a lot more to, when people talk about this, that's why I haven't entertained. And, I mean, I've tried to make sense of a lot of things, and I've had people on and discussed secret space, but none of it, like while I'm, and I have my memory of being in, battle multi-dimensionally doing what I did, but that's not my focus. My focus is here on the ground earth, like what are we doing here in our own communities? What are people doing? I've done my best in my own community to try to share, not try, let me change that word. I have shared a great deal of information, even if people pitch in and buy some land and create a where, have like a, what are they called, where you grow food and everybody can go and take only what they need, right? Learn to build small homes for people. Like I'm willing to get my hands in the dirt and do whatever. But people say, I don't have money. I'm abundant in my heart for sure. And I do trust that there will be funds. I do believe that, Shane. I'm not saying that it's going to be, the way this community has suggested it will go down, but I definitely believe that there will be funds that will be allotted for whoever to be able to start communities and so forth and so on. I just believe that in my heart of hearts. Or at least I want to believe that. I want to believe that something will happen that we will be able to come together and get more humanitarian projects going where people can participate in cleaning this earth up and making a clean home for all of us to be able to reside. And we don't have to agree with everything, but we can at least be respectful to each other and, have our own communities and be self-governing and take care of our own. I don't think that we need to be, acquiescing to the big corporations and all the nonsense anymore. I mean, I just don't. I watch to the extent to say, okay, here we are still doing the same thing, like what you're talking about. Nothing's really changed. I remember when you left Facebook for a while. You were gone and you came back. Do you remember that? You were gone for a while and you came back and you're like, nothing's changed. Everybody's talking about the same shit still. That was years ago. I remember you being gone and coming back. And I was so happy to see you back. But you were right, Shane. Nobody had, it was the same shit. And people are making a lot of money off the same shit. They're just using it and packaging it in a different way. And it just keeps looping the same. Well, now you got Michael Solid coming out saying that, they're meeting in, what is it? Now my mind's going blank. I can't think of the damn word. Down in Antarctica, to take out all these,
Yeah, I guessed that.
What was that?
I didn't know, but I was able to guess that it's probably in Antarctica because
yes,
I know how to write stories too.
Yeah, he did a thing and I dowsed it. I mean, I dowsed and I do divination and I got a very little information was accurate of what he was sharing. And it's been said that he's on the CIA payroll. I don't know if that's true or not, but nothing would ever surprise me about anybody anymore at this. Well, not you. Like, I totally know that you're, I just know it. Like, I can feel it, energetically feel the real, raw, genuine, and there's not many.
Someone sent me a clip the other day of a podcast I recorded in 2016 where I gave this community until 2018 to produce disclosure or to shut the fuck up about it. But it's now 2021, and I literally just before this podcast, someone who's been talking about disclosure since I said it back in 2016 is still talking about disclosure and how it's imminent, and it's just a matter of getting this meeting done. And
well, I think Shane, and I appreciate that because I definitely resonate with you in such a big way, and I think you're amazing, and I tell you that all the time, and I try to not just tell you, even on your posts and stuff. I just stop by to remind you that I'm thinking about you and that you're loved, right? Because you are. And but I have a feeling there's going to, I mean, I don't know, 2024 maybe, I don't know. I do believe that there's going to be some, they're not going to be able to, I can see shapeshifters in front of me. I can see beings in front of me. So, and I'm capable of doing that. So I know that at some point the hologram is not going to hold up well enough. Like, more and more people are going to be able to start seeing. They're going to have to say something so that everybody doesn't lose their, when I say everybody, people lose their effing mind, for those that are still very asleep and not aware. Why are you smiling? What
because you're forgetting about all the technology that's going to be out like tomorrow. right? Like you're forgetting about the fact that what they're selling right now is a pair of glasses that you can put on right like this that augment reality.
Well,
People
yeah.
aren't people aren't even interested in learning about the things that you're talking about. They have a whole replacement for it now, and it's all a virtual AI based world.
Yeah.
Um, if you think people were fucking distracted from it before, then all they're doing is adding a whole new layer of distraction. And I would love to be wrong, but I don't think that when we any of the topics that are discussed in this community are going to matter to humanity in the next 5 years. Everything is moving into tech. Everything. There's going to be things like ghosts and spirits and stuff, which is kind of a topic I'm talking about now myself through my own stuff, is going to be forgotten more or less, because people are going to be living in their computers. People aren't even going to be experiencing these realms, right? So there's no need to hide it from people who are willingly avoiding it, which is what people have been doing for forever. I teach magic classes now as part of what I do through Patreon. And thankfully, I've kind of dwindled down an audience to a point where I'm dealing with responsible people. But I literally get to the end of every session just being like, that could have gone so badly if I was just talking to the average human, right? Like the majority, the vast majority of humans. Our community probably has like less than 1 million people in it, and there's like 7 billion people on the planet, so like there's more people in my city than there are in the group of people we're talking about that are aware of these things, right? So we have to keep that in mind, because clearly if that was going to be the case, we would have some proof in the result, and we don't. We do have very clear proof in the result of the fact that humans are willingly blind to that thing. Humans are very much looking for someone to save them from all the trauma so that they don't have to process the dark night of the soul on their own. And unfortunately, that creates what I keep talking about, a breakaway civilization, which is people like you who believe these things and are correct, and wants to believe that other people will do the same, right? Like that's ultimately what it is. If you look at our community, if you look at QAnon, if you look at Kim and her bullshit, this is all people who are getting behind things, ideas that they want to be true. A big part of what I'm trying to express to, my friends, this community, anybody who listens to me, is we kind of got to get off the hopium, because we have to deal with what's right the fuck in front of us, which is not that world that you are hoping for, that we want. It's the metaverse. It's AI. It's VI. It's AR. It's VR. That is the world that we now have. You can talk about jumping timelines. You can hope for Donald Trump to come kicking down a door. You can hope for the Palladians to come save us. You can hope all you want, but that's kind of been my point. We've been doing this for 12 years. The comments that you've made, not to say you particularly, but we collectively have been making for 12 years. I still think it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe it's 2024, but I still just, I have a feeling it's going to happen. We've been saying that for 12 fucking years.
I appreciate that.
So,
and again, there's nothing wrong with dreaming, right? There's nothing wrong with dreaming, and I will never give up.
And maybe it happens, and maybe it happens, it happens.
But I don't sit and wait for it to happen. If it happens, great. I mean, I'm definitely not waiting for anybody to say. I'm sorry.
What we do know is it's not happening right now. We know that. We know that for sure.
Right.
There's no hope. There's no debate. There's no your version of it, my version of it. The truth here is singular. It's not here. What we do have right now is this massive threat of our world that is in the process of changing, being changed in a way that it benefits a few versus benefits all of us.
Okay, and
So
that's a big concern, Jane. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to say this because, well, we know about Atlantis, right? We went from going down a spiritual path to a technically based reality and so forth, and we made a bad turn then. And are we doing that again now? Again, when we're given this opportunity again to, really tap into our spiritual knowing, our divine gifts, our spiritual gifts, and using them, to really create pure magic that is not to manipulate or control or dominate over anybody else, but simply to create, experiences in our own world that benefit us and others. It's just so you're thinking, so there won't be many of us that go down the world of magic. And I'm glad to know that you started your classes. The last time you and I talked, or I had you on, you had said you were going to start a class for magic, and that's something I'll talk to you about after when we I think I do a little myself, but I know that you're probably way, I do it out of default more than I do anything. I wouldn't be as intentional as you are because I'm not learning in that way. So I would love to learn, but you think that so there's not going to be many of us going down that timeline of magic that we're going to turn into this.
we're gonna have to circle back to that. Are the windows closed? The reality of technology taking over, AI being the dominant, is here right now, right? So the only way we can't, unless we want some type of cataclysm, unless we want mom to shake her shoulders, then
Well, I think
we're
I'm
not
okay with her
reversing this.
shaking her shoulders. Honestly, yeah.
Okay, well, let me approach this like this. You know how old people never like the new generation's music, right? This is where a lot of people in our community are right now when it comes to this change in the world. It's basically a lot of old people being like, today's music sucks, because they don't want to accept the fact that this planet that we all love and have known for millions of years as an upbringing planet and running in a very specific way is going through a change. And if you want to disagree with me that the soul of this planet doesn't agree with this change, we'll know in a hurry, because if she disagreed with this change, she would just go like this and get rid of us all, like she's done a bunch of times before. Right? She didn't like
I thought
it.
about that many a
Right?
time, by the way.
When we can
Yeah.
use Atlantis as the example. That's what she did. When we took it too far, this is what she did. Now we're pushing it to the too far thing, and she's going like this. Give me more. And so it's time. That's what I mean. We're the ones who have to adjust to this. We're not going to adjust this to us. We are those old people looking at this new world and going, that music sucks. Our music was so much better. Our generation was so much better. There's so many souls incarnated right here who fit that analogy just in the way that they're looking at the world. Let's start looking at the world through mom's eyes. Clearly, she knows what the fuck she's doing. And guess what, guys? We're incarnated on her, not the other way around. She's the boss, not us. It's not my opinion. It's hers. She's allowing us to go down this road because she understands that a long-term goal, a long-term vision that we as human beings who barely live to be 100 don't understand. 2,000 years to her is not a big deal. 2,000 years to you and I and a lot of the people listening to this is a big fucking deal. And so we have a different view of it. What's going to happen is technology is going to take over, and we're going to learn technology until we develop some type of equilibrium with technology. And then we will bring back that organic technology and couple that with it as well. But for now, and I don't mean you personally, my friend, I love you dearly, but like we have to stop looking for this savior moment to come and stop this, because there is no stopping this. It's here, it's now, it's already happened, it's too late, basically. And so what we need to do, what we need to become responsible about, is how we're going to navigate this evolution, how we're going to teach our children, how we're going to influence and inspire younger people, how we're going to use the tools as they come up. Just imagine, you are already fully integrated with all of your organic technology, your magic, right? If that's the case, then AI is not fucking dangerous to you, and none of this synthetic technology is dangerous to you in the least, right? And so what would happen then is that now you have this opportunity to look at this as a tool to make this even stronger, and you just put them together, and then you have even more ability.
I so appreciate that. Yes.
And what
I'm definitely willing to go down that.
Something I've been pointing out, and I've some of the guests that I've had on my Patreon, just through their own research, have come to the same conclusion, is that there's a certain amount of the more advanced technology, like say the UFO crafts that we're familiar with and whatnot, that are a combination of consciousness, soul, organic technology, magic, with the craft itself and the machinery and everything else, and they work together symbiotically. That's where planet Earth is going. Planet Earth is going to be a planet that houses souls that incarnate into a species that is symbiotically paired with technology. We're the old people looking at that like we don't like the young music because it's just never been that way on planet Earth before. But I won't go into the long-winded reason of why it got to this point, but planet Earth is changing. Planet Earth isn't the same planet Earth that we've remembered for the last billions of years that it's been here. She's changing. She's growing up. She's taking on a new identity. And part of that identity is going to include technology, whether I like it or not. So,
well, would you suggest, because I know that I have AI that is part of my bio. Okay. I mean, I see it. I can see it in my, right? Although I know I have a soul. And I know when I entered this vessel, and I remember being in my mother's belly, not wanting to be born, and I could go on. Because I don't know that I was prepared for the task at hand, what I was being called to do again. But anyways, so would you say that there is a natural organic part of AI that is part of Mother Earth already? Like, meaning like hundreds of thousands of years. It's not like AI just ain't just now in this time, this time we're living in. I mean, this has been freaking millions of years AI's been around. Would you agree with that?
yeah, that's part of why this change is happening, because she's kind of adopted it. She's kind of taken it in for what it is. It is unfortunate, and this is the part where I empathize with the other side, the old people, is it is unfortunate that we are working at this backwards. It is unfortunate that we're going to have to go down this dark path because we're working at this backwards. But if you want to have hope for something, have hope in our ability to balance this out eventually, right? Instead of hoping to stop it because it's already here, you can't stop it. We need to start hoping that we can balance it, that we can figure this out, that we can find a way to, coexist with AI or technology, if you will, and use it as a tool as opposed to being, automatically assuming it as an enemy. I think that we've done that because we've been under control for so fucking long that we're like always looking for the enemy. And so when the Draco weren't the enemy anymore and like AI was left, it's like AI is clearly the enemy and technology is clearly the enemy. And it doesn't help that the way that the technology is being introduced to us has a lot of nefarious behavior attached to it, such as the lollipops and the broadband frequency with the number in the letter that they're turning on, and the effects that it has. They could have handled this a lot better than they did. Sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's not something that we can't It's not something that we can't adjust to. It's not something that we can't overcome. It is a mimic of natural evolution anyways. So in a sense, what's the difference, right?
I think people, I mean, Shane, I appreciate everything you say. I mean, I truly do. Like, there's not a whole lot, I mean, really, I definitely, my thought process is very much in alignment with what you talk about, okay, and what you're sharing. I think that people are resistant, and I was one of them, because when I found out that I had, when I was able, once my crown chakra opened up, or my pineal gland was activated, whatever you want to call it, and I was able to start seeing inside my bio, I was freaked out a little bit, because I'm like, what the fuck am I? You feel like you're a monster of some sort. But I do definitely know that I mean, anybody that knows me know, I mean, I have a heart of gold. I would do anything for anybody. Might be a little, direct sometimes. People don't know how to take me, because I kind of just blurt things out there and don't always think before I speak, but I usually don't open my mouth unless I know what I'm talking about, because I will observe and I will pay attention before and call it pride. I don't know what, ego. I don't think it's either one. I just like to know what I'm talking about when I talk. So if I'm saying something, it's after some serious consideration and, having observed for quite some time to make sense. But once I get it, I got it. And I know what I'm confident in what I say. And I just feel like, well, I agree absolutely with what you just said. And I think people need to stop fearing AI. There is a malevolent AI. And if you want to say malevolent AI, I would suggest that people consider it's not even the AI, it's those that are using it for their own purpose and gain. That's what's malevolent. It's not the actual technology itself. It's those that are running it. And it's kind of, just like, when we get into religion or magic, people talk about white magic and dark magic or black magic. And, if your intention is to manipulate or control or dominate over somebody or to cause harm intentionally, we all have bad thoughts. Sometimes I do. I mean, I'm not going to speak for other people, but I'm also conscious and aware enough to say, I know that's not my true heart's intention. I asked for something else. Is there something else available? I prefer a different thought. I mean, Michael Lee Hill taught me that one. It's the best thing I've ever, now I wake up with joy and, glorious thoughts, rather than I used to wake up with, the same shit over and over and over. And I've been able to, manage my thoughts and my mind a bit better and create, my reality is much more pleasant now. But like you said, I had to go through my dark night. Nobody was saving me. I reached out to the likings of Simon Parks, who I will say did help me to an extent that he was willing to help me, until I realized, that he was trying to use on his, and I confronted him about it, and his face turned, I'm wide open about this. I don't really care, because I'm not looking to attack his character. It's just, I know when somebody's trying to use mind control on me, and you're not going to get very far, because I'll figure it out. And then I'll be like, what the fuck? I don't like it. At least now, I may not have, understood it to the extent, but I just feel like once you can't go back and not know, is my point. Like, once you wake up and you become aware of some things and you're really doing the inner dialogue with yourself and doing the healing and sitting still and taking time to really, be with who you are as a soul and what you're here to do. I mean, the sky isn't the limit. We can do anything that we really, I don't look for big houses and fancy cars. That doesn't fancy me. What does fancy me is connecting with people like yourself, where I can really have a genuine, down to earth, conversation, that we both respect one another and each other's, if you want to even use the word perspective. Because now that I've been connecting with somebody else, I realize, whose truth is what's, my truth is this, your perspective is that. It's like, okay, I mean, everybody, we all have opinions, but knowingness is a completely different, when you're operating from knowingness, it's just a whole nother ball game. And it's a real simple thing. There's no, battle of information. There's no need for it. It's kind of, yeah. Does that, I mean, am I making sense what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, if you have conviction in what you say, you like, you'll say it, but you don't have to go out and fight it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I see certain people like they're kind of posting all day about, themselves more or less, and not necessarily in a narcissistic way, just like almost like they feel like they constantly need to defend the work that they've done somehow. I don't know. And people criticize me for like not even like promoting my own material. Like when I say material, I mean like my own art. Like I'm not even talking about what I might put out in this community. I mean, like when I'm with a band or something like that. Like I don't even promote myself in that way, right? So I'm not going to run around telling everybody, oh, you guys should listen to me, because you know what? I'm the only whistleblower in the history of whistleblowers within this community who has a 100 or 1000% batting average on their predictions actually having come true. There's nothing I have ever predicted that did not happen. Whereas everybody else has yet to get one right. So, I could run around.
I mean, I've never I don't know that I've ever predicted anything. I wouldn't consider myself a whistleblower. I could probably go down that line had I wanted to, but had no. I mean, I definitely was interested in getting my experiences out to people, because I wanted to make. First off, it was, call it selfish. I don't know what, but it wasn't selfish. It was like I wanted to understand what the hell I was experiencing, but it's only through sitting still and going deep dive within and making sense of my own experiences and listening to people like you and the Max and even James Casbolt and Sarah Adams and some others, whatever. But I don't have the memory of like being in cages or anything like that. My stuff was, maybe a bit different. I don't know. I know Og Tellis got pissed off at me and didn't want to. I think that something must have happened during a mission or something that he kind of, was giving me a clue that I was involved in something that maybe I didn't have memory of. I don't know, but it bothered me for a while. I'll tell you that, because the last thing I want to believe is that I've ever harmed anybody. But the truth is, I mean, if you've been using these projects and programs, it's likely that you have done harm. And then you have to sit still and get right with yourself and realize, what you, or at least for me, things I was participating in that I ended up becoming self-destructive and had a real difficult time going through my dark night of the soul, but I've come out of it, and I'm so thankful for that. And I definitely, my biggest apology is change behavior. And don't come apologize to me, anybody, if you have, if you've not done anything to change, your behaviors. It's just, so, and yeah, Shane, you're amazing. I don't know that I've ever predicted anything, but I've paid attention a whole lot and behind the scenes have done some, things that I consider helpful for the collective, and hope, my intention is always to get people. I'm not a love lighter, but I do believe in compassion, love, and kindness. It's very important to me, and I'm able to really be that more now in my life than I ever have been. I've been a person that self-sacrificed for a long time. I had an addiction that I was very selfish about, um, because it was my way of coping with my pain and my traumas and so forth. But I know that it's only made me a stronger woman today. And I think I'm amazing. And I don't say that grandiosely. I do. I think, I say to myself every day, you're freaking amazing. And I
You are
love it.
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane. Well, so are you, buddy. You're awesome. You know, people don't know, like if you're listening to the show now or when it's published on YouTube, if you're not familiar with Shane, definitely take the time, take a few minutes. You'll be pleasantly surprised at the information that he shared many years ago that it's helped so many of us that have been used in these projects and programs. And if you feel that you have been a part of, or you're newly awakening and you want somebody to reach out to or to get help or to have, receive some guidance, definitely reach out to Shane. All his contact information will be in the comment section. You could reach out to me and I'll do my best to direct you. I mentor people that reach out to me, not for any other reason, just simply having an ear and sharing my own experiences and help to guide. But I've not, I'm not looking to get paid for it or anything like that, or at least not of now. Maybe after I learn a little magic from Shane, I might be able to do something around this camp. But you are so amazing. I appreciate you so much. I know you said you wanted to keep it at 90 minutes, and I respect your time. So I'm not going to keep you longer. I think it was perfect. You shared a lot. A lot of people that will be watching this video at some point will get a lot out of just what you've shared. Probably will help a lot of people come to reason and make sense of some things. And I appreciate you for that. Is there anything that you want to share in the next 5? We've got about 7 minutes or so before we close. Any last comments that you'd like to share with us, Shane?
I mean, I think a lot of this, a lot of the problems that we've run into, it all boils down to just not understanding how powerful we are as individuals and always constantly looking outside of ourselves for everything. So it's, a good time to, if you haven't already, do the shadow work that everyone has been telling you to do that inner work, heal that inner child, remember how to play, get back on the path of the fool so that you can become a magician if that's the path you want to go. Keep an open mind as the world changes, trust in nature that, it has some sort of plan, and, believe in yourself along the way that you can make the best of things as they go. In terms of what I'm doing, pretty much all of the Ruiner stuff is behind a Patreon paywall now. I kind of got to a point where I had said all I could say without keeping it behind a paywall, reducing the size of the audience and keeping it away from the public. If behind the paywall, I can be a little bit more open about certain things because I don't have to worry about just everybody being able to hear it, right? So it's a kind of a new layer of things that I've already talked about. If you're familiar already with what I've talked about and wonder what I'm doing, and kind of going back over a lot of things in a lot more detail. An example of that is, so when I wrote the blog and I put it up, I never read it. So now I'm doing a series called the Ruiner Blog Recast, where I actually read the blog and then go back, start it over again, go back through it and explain it to you kind of paragraph by paragraph as I go through it. So,
well, I definitely would like to, so how do you, so I need to join, do I join how do I do that?
It'll be on Patreon. So I can send you the link so you can share it, but it's, patreon.com/Shane_Sador_storyteller. So Shane Sador,
Please make sure you
storyteller.
send, yeah, make sure you send all that to me. So if it's okay with you, it will definitely be added in the comments. But I particularly, well, when we end, if you'll just stay on for a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, because I want to talk to you about the magic school that you're doing, or sessions, a little bit about
I can kind of run through that now for everybody. I do charge money for it. I do charge money for it. I'm kind of Basically, it starts with an hour. I charge $60 for the hour, and that hour can either be just you asking me questions, use that hour as you like, or it can be a setup for one of two things I can do at the magic class. And the reason why that is just to get a lot of the like chit chat out of the way, as well as I need to know some things about you, because I have like a kind of structure for the class, but it's interactive with you. Like it varies from person to person because everybody's different. So I figure out what you like and how you terminize things, and kind of the way you view things first, and then I can present magic to you from there. In the same thing, because I've done therapy professionally, as well as, you know, I have all of this occult experience, I've kind of coupled it into what I consider like a metaphysical therapy, where we can talk about, you know, the unseen, as well as just the nuts and bolts psychology, biology, chemistry of, you know, whatever problems it is. So I offer therapy in that way too. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. I do therapy in sessions of 3, and the magic class, if you will, is 3 different sessions. Each one geared
So, and
towards.
it's $60 each session for
Well,
each
it's 200 flat, which is only like $1 off. So you basically save $3 or $1 off of each session if each one was 60. But
So
yeah.
it's $200 for 3 therapy sessions and 3 magic sessions,
Or 3 magic sessions.
or one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, either way you go, like it's 60 for the first hour, which, you know, however you want to use that. Some people like to just be able to ask me questions, right? Like how to do a Q&A for an hour, which is fine. And then, you know, if you are looking for the magic class or you're looking for therapy, then that's that hour where we discuss how it works, based on you as an individual, what you're looking for, and what you hope to achieve, so that the 3 sessions we do after it, which are the 200 for the 3, can be just very focused on getting that done.
Okay. Well, that's definitely, I mean, I've been out of work for a couple of weeks, so give me a little bit of time, but I'm definitely interested in working with you, Shane. I mean, it just, yeah.
I'll send you the email where people can, like, if anyone's listening and they are interested, you can email me. It's shane.sador77@gmail.com, but I'll send that to you so you can add it in the description as well.
Yes, and guys, please reach out to Shane if you have any interest in knowing just basic principles of magic, and you're looking for somebody to a therapeutic session, something that's helpful if you need to, you know, work out some things. Shane has definitely got the experience to be able to guide you and help you. And shadow work is definitely so important. I mean, I don't think it ever stops. I think we're always evolving, and we hit another layer, and there's more that, but it doesn't have to be daunting and miserable and, oh God, I'm this lowly, whatever. You know, you can learn to love your shadow and integrate and heal, and you know, things arise, and it's almost like a blooming of your true innate nature. It's
You
exciting.
make friends with it.
Yeah,
You make friends
there
with
you
it.
go. That's exactly
Just like
correct.
Peter Pan showed us. If you lose your shadow once you're friends with your shadow, you'll actually be disappointed. So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes, that's right. Shane, you're the best. I appreciate you. Everybody reach out to Shane the Ruiner. All his information will be in the comment section. I would love to have you back in a couple months. Maybe we'll see how things go. But yeah, yes. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate you. Have a fantastic night.
You as well. Bye, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Very good. Bye-bye.